Hi everyone, welcome back to the business series. Today we will talk about crowdfunding. I think that a lot of GCI member are entrepreneur and have a lot of idea. Maybe one day want to start something, or maybe some of the GCI member are already have an established business. And I think that funding is important for a business, to scale. So today we will have a guest and we will dive in the crowdfunded world. But let me first introduce Will. Hi, Will. How are you?
I'm doing great, Pamela. How are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I was waiting. Everyone was waiting for this this presentation for discussion. So I can wait to dive in. But before we start, if you can just introduce yourself because you did so many things. I won't lie, and it's like really interesting and that's nice. Like to have you here and find time to join this conversation. So if you can introduce yourself a bit.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, Pamela, thanks again so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. And yeah, just to give you all a little bit more background as to who I am and what I do. My name's Will Ford, and I'm the president and co-founder here at LaunchBoom. LaunchBoom is one of the largest crowdfunding platforms in the world. We currently work with product creators, entrepreneurs in over 50 countries outside the United States. And what we do is we help them launch their new product ideas through crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And we help them pre-sell thousands of units. Then in return, they get all that money out of the platform, and then they have more than enough time to manufacture and deliver to that backer that comes in and pre-orders that product on the Kickstarter or the Indiegogo platform. So it's really just a revolutionary opportunity to launch a product with much less risk in a much shorter time frame compared to the traditional model before crowdfunding ever existed. So that's more or less what I do. I've been doing that the last 10 years. I'm based right here in San Diego, California. So I am calling in to this call today from La Jolla, California. And yeah, really excited to explain more about what we do, how we do it, and then obviously answer any questions that you may have during our session together today.
Thank you very much for this introduction. Actually, I just wanted to know how did you start that? Why crowdfunding? Is because it's a lot of business in the world you can have chosen before, and what's that one, that type of business?
Yeah, so I'd say the reason I decided to start LaunchBoom is prior to LaunchBoom, prior to crowdfunding in general, whenever I was launching a new consumer product, I had to do it the traditional way. And what that looked like was me trying to figure out how to build a prototype, a product, and then how to raise enough money to be able to make that product with a manufacturer. And the way manufacturing works, if you haven't done it before, is when you try to create a product, a lot of these manufacturers, they'll give you a much better price break, or they'll give you a lower price per unit if you place a larger volume order. But the problem with that model is that you don't want to order too many units to get the best price break because you may not move that many units. And in that case, which I've also been in, you're stuck with a lot of inventory that you can't move, and your business is upside down before you even get started. And I've been there before, and it's no fun. So what really inspired me to start launching new products on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, for example, was one day while I was running my previous company, a company called Petbox, I had a student from University of California here in San Diego. I had a student that was finishing up his college studies and getting ready to launch his first consumer product. And somehow he got a meeting with me in my office, and I sat down and he showed me this really cool fish tank that he was launching. And he basically told me that he was going to launch it on Kickstarter. And at the time, this was like 2014. So at the time I was like, what is Kickstarter? Tell me more about it. And he's like, well, Kickstarter is this platform where I can introduce my prototype to the world. And I can literally get it in front of tens of millions of people looking for super cool, innovative products. And as long as I can make them feel like they're getting a significant discount off retail, and I let them know that they're going to be the first ones to receive that product as soon as it's manufactured, I can generate a tremendous amount of sales. And the beauty is that it's not even really a sale. It's what we call a pre-sale, because what we're doing is we're validating the demand. We're pre-selling as many units as possible. So by the time that 30-day Kickstarter or that 30-day Indiegogo campaign comes to an end, you have potentially thousands of orders that are paid customers. And now you get that money up front. So now you know how much volume to order with your manufacturer. And that was honestly like the biggest, scariest problem I always had prior to crowdfunding was I would always want to place the largest possible order so I get the best possible price break. But it was always scary because if my marketing plan and strategy didn't work, then there's a good chance I'm stuck with all that product and
Exactly.
I'm not able to pay for it. And I've been there and it's not a fun position to be in. So that's what initially attracted me to Kickstarter, Pamela, was the fact that like I couldn't believe that I could take a prototype and I could pre-sell it to people worldwide and then get all that money up front to potentially place a much larger manufacturing order and get the best possible price break per unit, which would increase my profit margin. And then from there, I already had my first few thousand customers delivered to me through these platforms, Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And then from there, the beauty of it is you then have 6 to 12 months to manufacture and deliver. So there's not too much pressure either. So it's really just a much more efficient, a much safer way to validate demand faster without all that financial risk exposure. Because now you're literally leveraging backers from all over the world that are pre-ordering your product because they want to get it in their hands. They're excited to buy it. They're excited to experience it. And that's why today there's been over $7 billion raised on Kickstarter since they started their company in 2009. So Kickstarter is just a little bit more than a decade old, and they've already raised billions of dollars to help fund products all over the world. Same with Indiegogo. They've got a massive, massive platform. They've raised over $3 billion on their platform for project creators worldwide as well. And a lot of people ask me, like, what's the difference between Kickstarter and Indiegogo? And honestly, they're both great platforms, but depending upon your product and category you're in, that's usually where my team will direct you to one platform versus the other, where we believe we can get you the best possible outcome or the best possible pre-sale. And so I know that's kind of a long-winded answer to your question, Pamela, but that's why I started crowdfunding. And then as I started with Kevin, this college student at UCSD here in San Diego, what blew my mind was how we did it. The way we did it was he only had a $30,000 budget to work with. And we put most of that money into advertising on Facebook and Instagram. But the idea was, let's advertise before we launch on Kickstarter. So let's focus on building our own community of people that are excited, engaged, and ready to buy. And let's build that community before we go to Kickstarter. So we spent a couple months before the Kickstarter campaign doing just that. And then we turned that $30,000 in advertising. Once we went live on Kickstarter, we turned that into close to $750,000 in sales and pre-sales.
Oh, wow.
So when you look at like that return on investment, it's massive in the marketing world, which is where I live, and the advertising world, because I mean that's almost a 17-time return on investment.
Yeah, totally.
It's massive. It's massive. And so that's honestly like where the idea for Launch Boom initially came from, was being an advisor to Kevin, going through that crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter, having that massive outcome with such a small budget that he actually put on a credit card, Pamela. And then he got all that money back well before that credit card was due.
Wow,
So
that's
it was
big.
It was super easy for him to pay the credit card, and then basically have more than enough money to make the manufacturing and delivery happen. And then from there, Kevin went on to launch another 6 crowdfunding campaigns with my team. And so, long story short, after that experience with Kevin, I did more research on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and I realized that these platforms, although Indiegogo started in 2008, Kickstarter shortly behind in 2009, they were growing exponentially year in, year out. And so I saw a bigger opportunity. And I'm like, wow, what if I could build a marketing engine and program to basically help entrepreneurs all over the world succeed in maximizing much larger raises of pre-sales on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And as I kind of did more research and learned more about it, I came up with the idea to buy launchboom.com because I thought Launchboom was a perfect brand for what we're doing, right? And so that's basically how I started and came up with the idea for Launchboom. Launchboom was born shortly thereafter. I partnered with a successful marketing team in San Diego that could help me expedite that growth and potential. And we basically launched in 2015, just a year after that initial launch with Kevin in 2014. And from 2015, that first year, we learned a lot, right? We learned how to make our system better, how to create a more consistent experience so that all of our clients could succeed and have these massive crowdfunding campaigns of 6 or 7 figures in US dollars. And then from there, what happened was Kickstarter reached out and they said, "Hey, Will, we'd love to have you come to our corporate headquarters in Brooklyn, New York, and we'd love to learn more about what you're doing because it seems to clearly be working." And so the biggest risk I made as an entrepreneur was I flew to Brooklyn and I met with the entire executive team at Kickstarter, and I just put my cards on the table and I showed them exactly how my system worked. And the reason that was risky was they had much deeper pockets than I have. So they could have just ripped off my model and done it themselves. Fortunately, they were much more focused on building their backer community as they were putting resources into supporting the entrepreneur and campaigner. So that's where they said, "Well, Will, why don't we just make you a partner? And everyone who comes in that's not properly prepared or ready to launch on our platform, we'll just send it to you. And we'll have you basically take them through your pre-launch process to get them that community built so that when you launch, you'll have that launch boom effect." And so what that means is the way we do our pre-launch process today is we usually spend about 2 to 3 months before the Kickstarter campaign goes live. And we really focus on maximizing this massive audience of super engaged people that are excited about buying the product. And then we launch the Kickstarter campaign or Indiegogo campaign when we can control the outcome. So what that means is you can actually set your own campaign funding goal. So a lot of people are like, my campaign goal early on is going to be $1 million. That's great if that's your internal goal, but you don't want to push that externally because if you don't hit that number, even if you got to 999,000, you aren't successfully funded if you don't hit the million, right? So the reality is we actually set our campaign goals much lower, usually between 10 and 50,000, depending upon how big that pre-launch community is. And then the idea is when you launch on Kickstarter, we get the entire project funded within the first hour every day we launch products. And when that happens, Kickstarter sees that there's this campaign that's already been funded super quick after it went live. And then they start to push and promote that campaign through their newsletters, to their backer community. And then what happens is you get this massive organic lift from their community. So even though we may only hit 10 or 50K based on our pre-launch community, that 10 or 50K very quickly thereafter becomes 6 or even 7 figures by the end of the campaign. So that's the launch boom effect. That's what we're doing. And over the years, we've created software, systems, and tools to make it like even more affordable and to make it even easier for the entrepreneur or our client to really kind of get through that pre-launch process faster and have even greater outcomes. And so, Pamela, just a quick example of like how we do that today, which is different from like 2014 and 15, is in the early years, we were focused on just collecting emails through Facebook and Instagram and getting people to a landing page that showed them more information about the product. And then we'd ask them to sign up and join our VIP list so they'd be the first to know when we launch via email. We then took that a step further and we were like, well, that's cool that we're getting all these email opt-ins. But the reality was we were only converting about 5% of the email list, right? So if you have, 10,000 emails pre-registered before your launch, you're only going to get a 5% conversion, right? So you're probably going to get about 500 or more backers, right? So we wanted to create a better list, a better audience. So what we ended up doing was we pioneered something called the reservation funnel. And what that means is as soon as we get the email to opt in through our Facebook or Instagram advertising efforts, then we immediately put them into another page where we give them a real offer And what we'll do is we'll give them an offer, something like, hey, be the first 1,000 backers to buy the product. We're going to give you a lower price and early delivery before everybody else if you're one of our first 1,000 orders. So if you want to secure the very best deal today before we go to Kickstarter, all you have to do is put a $1 money back guarantee deposit today, and we're going to guarantee you the best discount and early delivery before we launch. So what happens is, in essence, I'm pre-selling the pre-sale now. And what happens is that reservation funnel converts 30 to 40 times greater than my email collection, right? So what's really cool is we've really leaned hard on this reservation funnel system. And these reservation funnels will basically convert, like I said, 30 to 40%. So if I only have $1,000 reservations before your launch, I now know that I'm going to have 300 to 400 backers come in and order within that first email blast, that first hour after you go live on Kickstarter. So it's allowing us to generate much, much bigger campaign outcomes now, because we're building the most engaged audiences that you can build to support any launch. Does that make sense, Pamela?
Yeah, totally. No, totally. It's just that I have so many questions after that, but yeah, keep that makes totally sense. And I think that just to jump in the beginning when you were talking about the cost of inventory, that you can, like usually business lose a lot of money in that part when, you launch and you want to order a lot of, like let's say you have the quantity, but not people buying those quantity, and then you lose money on that. So that's something that business should be thinking about. And the pre-launch is totally a great idea. And I had another question about the fact that you totally, like, you're an entrepreneur and everything, and then to find that idea to have to go and to trust the process going to the business and present your system, how you work and everything, and be able to trust them and to be like, okay, let's see what's gonna happen, but I will present how that work. And you were lucky actually that they were not even interested about, they were not really focused on that. So you find the right partner to do that. But how can you actually advise other business to do that, fam? Because I think that you were lucky, but I don't think that everyone will feel safe, secure to go to another business to partner, but then with a project that maybe the other business can take it. So
yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely helpful early on within like my first year of launching LaunchBoom, where Kickstarter is like, hey, Will, we want to add you as a preferred partner, and we want to get you in front of all our campaigners, right? Because once that happened, then our business grew exponentially overnight. So I actually did the same thing with Indiegogo. I went to Indiegogo's offices in San Francisco, and I said, hey guys, this is what we're doing with Kickstarter. This is why these campaigns are doing so well. We could probably emulate the same thing on your platform. And we already had at the time, so I had some case studies to share. And they were like, this is great. We're going to make you a preferred partner. So now within a year of starting LaunchBoom, I'm a preferred partner of both Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And now we have hundreds of deals coming in to my business every month of people looking to launch a new product on these crowdfunding platforms. And so that really gave us a huge edge on our future competitors. Because once we started this, obviously, with success, you're always going to have competition, right? When people see you doing really well and growing fast, next thing I know, a handful of other agencies kind of started to sprout up behind us, seeing the success we were having, copying a lot of our process and system, which honestly for me is more of a compliment than anything. That means we're doing something well, exactly. With it, right? So, but fortunately, where we had the leg up was we already had those partnerships with Kickstarter and Indiegogo. So it allowed us to really kind of grow much faster and really kind of build our brand equity in that crowdfunding space. So people all over the world really became much more familiar with LaunchBoom and what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And so, anyone out there who's starting a business, my number one recommendation to you is it's not easy. First off, it is hard. I never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur when I was in college. I studied to be a real estate finance professional. That was like what I studied in school. And I did that for a few years after college. And then right behind it, I had an opportunity to start a business. And I thought it was exciting. And back when I was in college, they didn't have an entrepreneurial school, right? So I didn't have access to that opportunity. So I had to kind of teach myself how to do it. And I did really well with my first business. After 13 months of starting it, I was acquired. So I was in my 20s. I had a really nice exit. I had some money to invest into my next venture. I ended up doing that 4 more times before I started LaunchBoom, almost about 10 years ago now. And the reason I continue to do LaunchBoom is because it's like the most fun I've ever had. It's been great. All right, I think we've lost Pamela, so we're going to wait for her to jump back in. But if you have any questions or want me to cover any specific topic about crowdfunding, you can, put any comment you want here in the comments feature, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. But yeah, Pamela, like I was saying, crowdfunding is really kind of where I've landed when it comes to my career and passion, because it's so much fun working with entrepreneurs all over the world that have these really cool product ideas, but they just don't know where to start. And if they're lucky, we'll bump into them first, right? Because we've really built a proven system. We have a whole team built around this that make it so much easier, so much more affordable for them to literally take their product into crowdfunding very quickly, validate demand, generate thousands of early adopters or customers. And then from there, it's so much easier to get the manufacturing done, the delivery done. And then we usually take those clients over to e-commerce after that, or Amazon, or even retail, depending upon, what path makes sense for their product. And what's really cool for me, Pamela, is today, since starting LaunchBoom almost 10 years ago, I've literally helped over 50 ordinary people that had never launched any product or even run a business. I've helped them take a great product idea that they had. I've helped them not only launch it through crowdfunding, but go on to scale and have massive exits and acquisitions, where now those 50 plus people are multimillionaires, and they're just in much better places today than they were when I first met them. And that's what kind of keeps fueling my passion to keep doing more of this crowdfunding work, because it works. And it's so much more efficient, effective when you compare it to like the traditional way before crowdfunding existed.
Nice. That's really great. But I have a pre-question now. So let's say I have how a business will know first of all that it's ready to start like the way you do the process is really about the pre-selling and everything. But from one idea to the launch, the pre-launch and everything, when the person will be like, okay, I feel comfortable to start that process, because I think that from some people need more time, because everyone is not. It takes time to be entrepreneur. It's like it's hard as well, and you need a lot of thinking and everything. So, which advice will you give you, like how long someone can think about starting the process crowdfunding from the idea?
Yeah, so I'd say, like, when it comes to crowdfunding, a lot of people will come to us at different phases. But to be honest, to answer your question, we can literally help almost anyone today. And when I say anyone, like, we can usually help people get started if they have their idea sketched on a napkin. So as long as you can take that idea out of your brain and draw it on a napkin, we can then get you connected to the right team to help you create a prototype and to turn it into a product. And then from there, we can then take that into our crowdfunding system and program and help you maximize a pre-sale and generate thousands of new customers faster. And then from there, we can take that success and then help you make the product, and then get that product in the hands of those early backers from Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And then from there, eventually we can help you scale harder, faster, and grow a very profitable, successful business behind it.
Okay. And thank you very much for the comment, guys. Just another question, maybe. Do you know, like, for which example will you give of some business that actually will not fit, to be crowdfunded? Like maybe you saw in the past some failed experience, and which one will you not advise people to start?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. And I'd say, so first and foremost, I'm just looking at the comments coming through here,
Yeah.
and it looks like Giselle is talking that she also has experience in crowdfunding, and she was more reward based, not equity. And that's honestly exactly what I do. So what's great about Kickstarter, Indiegogo is that they are reward based platforms, meaning that you're not giving up any equity. Let's just be clear on that. All you're doing is you're pre-selling your product. And the only reason it works is because backers continue to go back because they want access to the coolest, the newest products, the most innovative products. They want to get a discount off retail, and they want to be the first ones to get their hands on it. That's like the three reasons why crowdfunding continues to grow exponentially year in, year out. I mean, right now, I did a GPT chat the other day just to see kind of where the numbers were. But there are tens of millions of unique visitors every day going to both Kickstarter and Indiegogo for that one reason. They just want access to really cool products. They want to be the first ones to get their hands on it. They're willing to wait and give you their money today as long as you give them a discount off that eventual retail price, which isn't too difficult to do. Wow. So to answer your question, Pamela, I want to tell you that a lot of people come into us with all sorts of business ideas, right? And the truth is, what consistently works the best on Kickstarter, on Indiegogo, is when you launch a physical, tangible product, hardware. It's got to be some kind of consumer product. I have done other tests. To your point, I've tried to launch indie films, and those are much more challenging and difficult to convert the ads into backers. Apps. So a lot of people early on would come to us with like all sorts of iPhone app ideas. Apps are also super challenging to do well. And the main reason for that is because they're usually like subscription, lower cost. So one thing is that Kickstarter, Indiegogo, they don't allow subscription businesses. Anyone who's looking to find subscribers, they don't allow those to launch on their platform. So you've got to really look at like, okay, how can I maximize the average order value per backer selling a physical, tangible product good? And then to also the second half of the question that I want to answer is we've also tested consumer products at lower price points versus higher price points. And the ideal average order value is if you can get your product to like $99 or higher. You actually don't want to have too low average order value because you have to take into consideration that you're going to have to spend a little bit of money on your video, on your marketing, on your advertising, right? And you need to be able to generate a strong enough average order value from the backer in order to have enough money left over to realize a profit, right? Because you're not just paying for your product, but you're also paying for marketing and advertising. So for example, if you're launching a product that's only like $20, for example, it might cost you a lot more to acquire that backer when you take into consideration the product cost, the delivery cost, the marketing, the advertising. So that's why for us, we usually like to target average order value, or sometimes we can take a smaller price product and create what we call a bundle pack. So we can, significantly increase that average order value. But what we see work the best are any consumer product companies looking to launch a consumer physical product. And we're looking for anyone that we can help create like a lead offer or package of $99 or higher. And honestly, like the higher, the better. If we can create like a value perception in the eye of the consumer that getting $1,000 product, but they're going to be able to get it for $600 or $700 because they're coming through Kickstarter or Indiegogo, those convert really, really well. And they also drive a much bigger campaign outcome, right? Because if you sell, let's just say a $500 product to 1,000 people, that's $500,000.
Yeah, totally. No, that's true. And one small question: do you have like maybe one of which area, like the one field that is really like the one you see in the future still growing? Let's say if they start a business in the the wellness of other projects.
Yeah, I would say yes, there are some categories that are like much more exciting for my team when we see them versus other categories. If you go to launchboom.com, you can see a lot of the different categories of examples of different products and verticals that have done super well through my program. And then there's other categories that are more challenging. So to answer your question, I'll kind of keep it high level. So what you need to understand when you go to a Kickstarter or Indiegogo platform is that the majority of the backers, the majority are going to be males, and they're going to be ages 25 to about 55 years of age, right? So what that usually means are any type of product that's going to appeal to that type of demographic
Mm-hmm.
do really, really well.
Okay.
Now,
And sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
I was going to say that's a part of it. Now, the other part of it will be we are having more and more success with female products. We launched last month a baby product that did really, really well. We are having a lot of success launching like female apparel, right? So we are starting to see that change. And just so you know, since I've been doing this about a decade now, 10 years, there's been a lot of change in the industry with the platforms and especially with the pandemic. The pandemic opened up a lot of new categories, like believe it or not, but like kitchen products, home products have been doing super well. Like standing desks do really, really well. So like the pandemic definitely opened up some new categories for us that do really, really well. I'd say like one of the most popular categories are the gaming category on Kickstarter. I'd say like if you have like really cool tech or innovative tech products, that's usually where I'll direct that over to Indiegogo because they're really strong with tech hardware. We've had a lot of success with, believe it or not, e-bikes, electric bikes. Electric bikes, we launch usually one or more every month, and they all do extremely well. We actually had a campaign go live yesterday. So if you're on Indiegogo, I don't know how to post links in here, but I'd love to figure out how.
I will for the watcher. If you can send it, we will send. If you can send us an email to GCI Island, we will send more information about the website and as well about Will and the summit that will come in soon. Yeah.
So I just in the private chat, I just put a link, so you should be able to see it. But on Indiegogo, we launched a project yesterday, which is kind of a cool story. But this is a couple that bought a piece of land in Asheville, North Carolina. So in Asheville, Carolina, up in the beautiful Appalachian Mountains, this couple bought this big piece of land. There's nothing on the land. Then we introduced them to a 3D artist that created this beautiful render, realistic render that made it look like the property was already developed. And the project is called Mirror Hotels. And so it's a 5-star luxury boutique hotel concept and experience where all the hotel rooms are built with a mirror exterior. So it reflects the beautiful nature that they're situated in. And it's a really cool project. We took this through our pre-launch process, and just like every launch, we knew we were going to have a really big campaign just because we had built such a huge, massive community of people through the reservation funnel that had already made pre-orders and were most likely going to convert and become a backer on Indiegogo. And so what's really cool about this link in here, and I'm not sure how you post it to the comment section.
You can send me the link and I will share with the community for sure directly. Yeah.
So I sent it to you in the private chat option.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then I will. Yeah.
Perfect. So you should be able to click on it, and then you could share it in the comment section. But
yeah, I will do that.
If anyone here listening wants to see it, if you just go to Indiegogo.com and you type in Mirror Hotels, you can see it. But we launched it yesterday, and 2 hours after we went live and we posted it on Indiegogo and launched it, we raised over $1 million in pre-sales in 2 hours, which is the fastest I've ever done that. So what that tells us is that crowdfunding is bigger and better than ever. It's still the best place to pre-launch launch any new type of product idea. But the fact that, we've already raised over $1 million, I think we're at like over 1.3 million today. We still have 30 days left to keep pre-selling rooms. And so what this couple did was they took a really cool approach to crowdfunding where they bought the land. So they had the land. We created the 3D renders, which only cost them a few $1,000s to create. And then they turned that into a video showing what this property is going to look and feel like when it is developed. But what they promise backers are that the backers are going to be the first ones to access the property at a significant discount off what rooms will ever go for again by pre-ordering their rooms today, right? And so as soon as this thing launched, I mean, we have over 1,000 people that have pre-ordered their rooms. We've raised over $1 million, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of our better campaigns this month, just because it's doing so well.
That's interesting, even to pre-launch a hotel boutique. Actually, that's something different than to sell
Pamela,
something physical.
It's totally cool because now they're going to be able to take this millions of dollars from Indiegogo, and now they have a year to develop it, and they have the money they need to develop it, and they're going to have this beautiful luxury hotel property that they still have 100% ownership in. It's truly amazing.
And I think it's amazing because as well, you don't need to be only really thinking about the bank to give you the money, like you say, like you own that, it's like really you fund the project. But another question, not really about this one, but let's say now in the worst case scenario, because I always like to think about everything to be prepared. So let's say you have a project, you start and you launch it, pre-launch, but in the journey something happened and you cannot deliver. So what's happening?
Yeah, that's another great question. A great, fantastic question. That's happened to us many, many times, especially with the hundreds of crowdfunding campaigns we're managing every year. So it happens a lot. And so it's one thing, another reason I love crowdfunding. So a lot of times, especially during COVID, we went through a lot of this where we would take a prototype, we would have a massive crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, and then all of a sudden the manufacturer that they were using was no longer able to support the product at the price they quoted, right? So at that point now, what usually happens is we have to find a new manufacturer, right? So what's great about crowdfunding on Kickstarter and Indiegogo is that the backers, they're okay if there's problems. They know they're supporting an innovative idea. So as long as the campaigner, the product creator is proactive in the communication, which is really easy because as your backers come in, you can email all of them through the platform. And they're called backer updates. So a lot of our clients, we always recommend over communicating, right? Don't communicate less, but over communicate. It's okay to send an update weekly or an update every other week because the backers are excited. They're excited about the journey they're on. They feel like they're part of your journey. That's why a lot of them are backing you and they want to see this thing succeed. So during COVID, we had so many people that had supply issues. We thought we were going to deliver in 6 months, but we had to push it back to 12 months. We had some that we had to push out a couple of years. And we had very little pushback from backers because we over communicated. So for example, we just say, hey, we want you to know, thank you again for backing us, but we want you to know that we've hit this roadblock. Our manufacturer shut down or whatever. We no longer have the same manufacturer that we had. So now we have to take some time and find a new one. So we'll let you know as soon as we found the new one, right? And then the next update will come out. Great news, we found the new manufacturer. We'll share some pictures from the manufacturing facility. So it's a lot more real, the experience for the backer. And the new update is that we're going to be 6 months behind delivery, but we're actually going to get you an even better product now, right? So as long as you communicate and you let backers know what's going on, you keep them in the know, there's usually not too much pushback or any issues.
And in that communication is important, totally. But in that communication, do you communicate like weekly? How exactly the one who expecting the project at some point want to be, how many times per week, so per month, he want to have like an update about what's happening, when you have some delay.
Yeah. I mean, usually we have a standard practice where we'll have our our campaigners, we'll have them send out at least one or more email communications to backers after the campaign. So what happens, Pamela, is after the campaign, the money goes right to our client, right? So now they have resources to go build and deliver what they promised, right? So as soon as that happens and the campaign closes and they have the backer money, that's where we have a practice where we want them to send at least one or more messages per month. And again, just updating them on the progress, what's going on behind the scenes, so that the backers can have the best expectation possible as to when they're going to receive that product. And like I said, as long as you communicate like once or more every month with relevant updates, the backers are totally understandable. That's what's cool about Kickstarter and Indiegogo, is that backers want to see these companies succeed. That's another reason why they're investing and pre-ordering that product. I shouldn't say investing; they're just pre-ordering the product. But so that would be the cadence that we would recommend.
And as you say already, that you saw a difference for sure pre and after COVID, because like people spend more time at home. This, some like they start to buy more stuff for home, to feel more comfortable at home and everything. But because I think you have launched different campaign, but not only in the US as well, based, but because you have soon, we will talk about the summit, but you have a summit with different people really like expert in that world, and from different locations in the world. Have you seen like a different actually, like when from US, let's say, base campaign launch and Europe and the rest of the world? What did you see? Like, what is the difference between them, and which kind of maybe area or more interesting for the customer than maybe in US?
That's another great question. So first, you have to realize that every product is different, and every product serves a different purpose and creates a different solution, right? So that being said, what's really great about Kickstarter or Indiegogo is they cater to most countries in the world. There are some countries where they don't support launches for whatever reason, but for the most part, they cater to pretty much every country in the world that, has access to internet connection and has the ability to leverage their platform. And so what's really cool about that is, first and foremost, when our program and process basically works consistently well for all our clients, no matter what part of the world they're located in. But to answer your question, we don't really know where the demand is until we start the pre-launch and we start testing different audiences, different countries, to find out where the interest and demand actually is, right? So I get asked that question every day from people all around the world, and I tell them the same thing, like, I don't know until we start testing. Once we start testing, I can show you whether or not your customers are going to be more demand in Australia versus Europe, or maybe there's more demand in China versus the US or Canada, right? And so we learn that as we take our clients through the pre-launch, that community build process, and it's going to look very different for each of our clients. There is no cookie cutter model here where, okay, it's a e-bike, let's just target Europeans, right? Because maybe the demand's really Australians or Americans, or maybe it's all three, right? And so that's what's great about our system, is that we have over 7 million backer emails in our database that have backed one or more of the products that we've managed since our inception here at LaunchBoom. So what another benefit to our clients is that we provide access to those audiences. So now if it's an e-bike, we can target other people that have participated in other e-bike campaigns in the past that may be all over the world. So we can actually put their bike in front of these unique audiences that are all over the world. And then we look at what converts. So if we see that the ads we're pushing to Europe are converting higher or stronger than the ads we're pushing in America or Australia, then we're going to be like, hey, let's put more budget towards European markets.
I have another question now, because what you say, but let's an example. It's a question, but if you do that, it's not like kind of building on a concurrent business, like if they sell the same thing at some point and you had the same customer and then you rebuild that on them. I don't know if there's no a trustworthy, like, I don't know how to explain, but you don't have any like a limit of, okay, we don't go to those kind of customer because maybe they are a competitor for this business as well. But they already did that for another business.
Yeah. Usually what we do, Pamela, is everyone who is interested in launching a new product, what we'll do is we'll usually have a call with one of my experts here at LaunchBoom just to learn more about where they are in that process. Like I said, some people may have just written it down and drew it on a napkin and be like, this is my idea. Other people might come to us and they already have that product already built, already packaged, and they're like, hey, this is what we want to launch. We're ready to go now, right? So what we do is we figure out kind of where they are in that process. And then from there, we make sure to, support them however we need to be able to even get them into our crowdfunding program. So for example, we usually start our process once they have a prototype that looks good enough to photograph, or they have a 3D render, like that hotel deal I told you about, that looks good enough for me to market and advertise. Once we have that sort of marketing asset, we then take them through our messaging and positioning process. So the very first step is, hey, we want to learn as much about your product as possible so we can do a market search and really look at what makes your product superior and better than everything else in that same category. From there, we pull out the messaging and positioning that helps us immediately connect with the consumer why this product is superior versus everything else that's currently being offered in that same category. At that point, once we've done that and we have the messaging, the positioning, and some of the imagery together, we then do what I call is A/B testing. And what that means is it's really simple. What we're doing is we're going to come up with maybe one or two or more lead offers. So for example, you may say, hey, Will, I need to sell this for $99 to hit my profit margin, right? So we'll put together a lead offer, a reservation funnel that will promote that offer, saying, hey, Pamela, be the first 1,000 order, and you're going to get our product for the best deal at $99. And this is what it looks like, right? Now, we might do some research and come back to you and say, hey, Pamela, that's great that you want to sell it for $99. But our research shows that your competitors are selling for $1,000. So why don't we try maybe a $299 offer and see what that looks like? I know all you need is $100, but we might be able to get you $300 for the same exact campaign per unit. So we'll test that offer. Now, at the end of the day, we'll look at the data. We'll look at what converted the best. Now, what's really cool is that we've had so many clients that came in being like, we know our product cost. This is what we want to sell for. This is how much margin we're going to make. And I test that lead offer, and the data wasn't that great. And there's a great example, and I'll post a link in here too, because this was a great story. This is a client of ours in Sri Lanka. And so these guys have a really cool product. They've done incredibly well since we launched their product. They're doing millions of dollars a year on their e-commerce site today. But this is just a great example of what happened. Hold on. It's not my internet's slow. But anyway, I'll tell the story because it's a really cool story. All right, here it is. I've got the link right here. I'll share it with you right now.
Yeah.
But so when I initially took this team through my process, the team in Sri Lanka, and I just sent you a link to it. So if you want to post it, everyone can see what I'm talking about. But basically, this is basically just a really cool product, and you put it around your calves, and it massages your calf, right? And they had super low pricing with their manufacturers. So they came to me and they're like, hey, Will, our product cost is only $30. So we want to sell it for $99. Right. So I was like, okay, great. So we ran a lead offer through our reservation funnel, and we marketed it to targeted audience that we thought would really get excited about the product. And we basically marketed it to them, and our conversions were horrible. And it blew my mind because they sent me a prototype, and I still have mine. I love mine. Like it's great for traveling, for post-workout recovery, and it's a great product. And so it prevents blood clots and all sorts. It's got a lot of health benefits. So I ended up was really confused, and so we did a deeper dive into the market research, and we realized that anyone with a competing product were selling for thousands of dollars. So I said, hey guys, I know that you want to sell for $99, but let me just try it at $189. And so we tested the new offer at $189, and we ended up having the most incredible conversions, right? Everyone was excited. Everyone was signing up. And the reason why was because today consumers are smart. They're smarter than ever because they have so much resource to ChatGPT, Google. There's so much more information at everyone's fingertips now. So when people saw the first offer, they may have thought it was like a cheapo, bad built or just a ripoff because it was too cheap, right? So when we increased the price from $99 to $189, we ended up having the most incredible outcome for this team. So long story short, that link I sent you, they ended up raising over $1 million in pre-sales on Indiegogo. Now, what was even cooler about it was we did that outcome, but we more than doubled their profit margin, right? Because they were happy to do that at $99 a customer, but I got them half as many customers for $189. And now I multiplied their profit margin, right? So they, let's just say, are very happy with us here at Launchboom because they made a lot of profit margin on that raise. Pamela, your mute's on.
Yeah, so thank
There
you.
you go.
So it's really about to be able to adapt yourself, because maybe you can come, have a product and have an idea of, and like have an idea of the cost and everything, but actually it's more about seeing what actually is talking to the customer and what the customer want and how, and then that's where you have a win-win actually with the customer and your brand when you listen to the customer and you see exactly the numbers at some point. I have a small question actually. You talk about ChatGPT and I wanted to jump in that one. How do you see the future of crowdfunding with AI? Because I think that touch everything. So let's just jump in that one as well.
Yeah. That's great. And we can open up for Q&A if there is any. But on my side, AI is incredible. And we've actually made it a priority here at Launchboom to incorporate AI technology into our software. So the idea is we're actually leveraging AI internally to make our program even more accessible and affordable, because AI is helping us do a lot of things that we used to have to do manually. We can now leverage AI to get the same type of output. So we've actually made a big push this year to incorporate AI technology into our software and platform so that we can make it even easier and even more affordable for every campaigner out there to have even bigger, more successful outcomes and making much more profit at the end. So I'd say that's like a high level overview as to kind of how we see AI affecting the industry. I think it's going to be super positive. I think it's going to do a multitude of benefit for everyone crowdfunding. I think it's going to allow people to create marketing assets faster for less cost. I think it's going to allow them to get better messaging positioning done for less cost in a faster amount of time, among other benefits as well that we're exploring now. So I'm personally really excited about it. We've kind of grabbed the bull by the horns here, and we've really leaned in hard to it because we think it's going to just add such a huge benefit for the future of everyone looking to crowdfund and making this even less risky financially for a lot of people out there.
Thank you very much for so much information. I have I will talk a bit about the summit because I think it's the first one I heard about crowdfunding, like biggest one for the moment until now. You will host a summit about crowdfunding, and you will have like different speakers and different experts from different locations of the world. And the idea of the summit, how did you have that idea? I think because you see a lot of summit about different topic in the world, but I think that was the first time I heard about a summit like this.
Yeah, so I came up with the idea for Crowdfunded Summit during the pandemic. So during the pandemic, I did a lot of public speaking. I flew all over the world. I was presenting on all these stages, and I had a very, very packed schedule for 2020 as 2020 started. But then the pandemic hit and everything got canceled. So I was having a conversation with my leadership team, and I challenged everyone. I said, hey guys, why don't we try to host our own virtual summit? And this way we can still connect with everyone around the world that wants to launch a product and learn more about crowdfunding. So I launched the first one in September of 2020. Since then, I've done 2 a year. So we're getting ready to host our 5th crowdfunded summit. We're doing it next month, May 9th through May 11th. And if you haven't already, Pamela, if you post that link in the comment section, anyone here can sign up for free. And you guys can attend, any session you want to attend. It's again, the first 2 days, we're going to have the top experts in my crowdfunding industry present. I have the CEO of Kickstarter. He's going to be doing a keynote the first day. The second day, I've got the CEO from Indiegogo. She'll be leading the keynote the second day. And then in between, we're going to have all sorts of great sessions about everything you need to know about how to succeed with crowdfunding. So it's going to be literally like the world's top experts attending this virtual summit. It doesn't matter what part of the world you're in. As long as you have access to Wi-Fi, you can access the summit. And if you want to check it out, you can go to crowdfundedsummit.com. You can register for free. You can also apply for our pitch competition. So our pitch competition, we're going to be closing that door on May 3rd because we have to choose everyone we want to pitch and present. So if you want to apply and if you have a cool product and you want to win some cash, a lot of additional support to maximize your crowdfunding campaign outcome, definitely apply for the pitch comp, which you can also find on that Crowdfunded Summit link.
Perfect. And before we finish, now let's talk about the biggest part, the pitching. If you can, first of all, because you have more than 10-year entrepreneurial years behind you, and you have the experience, and you work in the crowdfunding. So if you can give, like, first of all, what is a good pitch, first of all, and if you can give more advice on, how to pitch a good business and to our to our GCI member.
Yeah. I mean, that's a loaded question, but I will tell you again, just keep it more high level since we're running out of time. I've built many pitch decks, probably more than most people in the world, to be honest. And I say that with all humility because I've learned a lot through that process. I've become, very, very good at kind of getting rid of the noise and just making my pitches much more concentrated and focused on what's going to be most important to the investor. So over years, I've personally raised millions of dollars from angel investors, VCs, through convertible debt notes. And I've had to personally meet with a lot of the different investors to raise money for my previous ventures before LaunchBoom. What's cool about LaunchBoom is it's the first business that I self-funded. So I don't actually have investors at LaunchBoom. And that's another goal for anyone here. Once you raise money and you launch a successful business and sell one, if you can eventually go on and start your own company without having to take money from investors, it's been a super rewarding experience personally. Like I've learned so much not having to use investors. It almost forces you to be even more shrewd and more strategic with a lot of where you put your resources and a lot of the other business decisions that need to be made. But to answer your question, when it comes to preparing any type of pitch deck, I usually try to keep my pitches very straight to the point. I try to keep my pitches shorter. I don't try to just put a lot of fluff in there. Usually what I'll do is I'll start with kind of introducing myself, my background. Then I'll move into like the why I decided to launch the business. And then from there, once I explain my why, I talk about the bigger opportunity. I talk about what that market looks like and why I believe my idea can absorb a really big market share of that total opportunity. And from there, I then move into how I'm going to take that market share. And a lot of that goes into my launch strategy, how I plan to scale, and more importantly, depending upon the business model, what that return could potentially look like for my investor. And I always try to keep my numbers very conservative, and I also try to be as transparent as possible. Again, investors, they know when you're BSing them. They know when they're, when you're overselling them, and that will turn them off immediately. So what I've learned that has worked really well for me personally is just being direct to the point, being passionate about what I'm doing, and expressing the opportunity. And again, it's all about, because now I personally invest in entrepreneurs as well. So for me, it's like my decision is usually pretty simple. It's like, okay, do I believe in that entrepreneur? Do I believe that they have the guts and work ethic to actually make this happen? Right. So my number one criteria for investing in startups is the people behind the company. Do I believe in them, or him or her? Right. The second requirement is, do I believe in the opportunity? Do I actually think it's an innovative opportunity? Do I actually think that it's going to be a major disruptor? Because for me, I like to invest in businesses that have the opportunity to create major disruption, right? Because obviously that makes the reward much greater in the end if it works.
Yeah.
And then from there, I want to believe that there's an actual plan that I think is actually going to work to not only launch that idea, but continue scaling and then eventually dominate that market opportunity. So I know that's super high level, Pamela, but like I could spend a whole nother hour, if not longer, with you showing exactly how I do my pitch decks. I've run out of time today.
Oh yeah, no problem. I think that if we can find a way to have maybe another session about that part, that would be great, because even that short time you give us some, how to start, at least, in a brief idea of how to start. And how long actually should a pitch like really be like the good one? Not because some people can be like 2 minutes or 5 minutes, but I don't know what you think is the right time to
Yeah,
pitch
when
a business.
it comes to pitching a business idea and trying to raise funding, there really is no time limit I'd recommend. To be honest, it really depends on really the person delivering the pitch. Everyone has different styles. Everyone's different at the end of the day. So for me, like when I pitch, my pitches are usually much shorter, right? Like if I'm going to pitch a group of investors or an investor, I'm probably going to spend no more than 20 to 30 minutes with that investor talking about the opportunity. And again, and a lot of that is explaining who I am and my background, and then leading from that into the why I decided to do this business. Mm-hmm. And then from there, after more research, this is what makes me truly excited and passionate about the opportunity, is that it could be worth this much money and take this much market share. And then behind it is, this is how I plan to get there. And as long as the investor believes in me and why I'm doing what I'm doing, and they believe that I can actually execute my plan, I've never had a problem raising money. So that's again, I know that's super high level, but I've seen some people have pitched me in 5 minutes, and I'm like, take my money, right? So it really just depends on the person, the style, what they're more comfortable with. Because at the end of the day, like, you got to be yourself, you got to be confident, and you got to be comfortable. Because if you come off with like minimal fear, the investor is going to recognize it and they're going to check out immediately. Right. So my number one advice is, like, if you're going to go into any type of pitch with one or more investors, you've got to be prepared. You've got to come in with high confidence, and you've got to deliver. You've got to deliver a great presentation, right? Whether it's 2 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour. Right. But, and again, avoid the fluff. What I hate as an investor when I'm being pitched is when people go off the deep end and they start talking too much about the details that aren't really that impactful to the overall investment piece. Right. Also, know your numbers. Another great piece of advice is know your numbers. Make sure that, like, if you're going to go raise the money, what investors want to know is that you're going to be able to spend and deploy that money immediately. They don't want to just write you a check for $1 million and have you sit on it for 10 years. That's not why they're making the investment. They're making the investment to accelerate your growth. So if I'm going to write that $1 million check, I want to know that you've got a plan, and that I believe that it's a good plan that can be properly executed, and that you can, as soon as I write that check, start executing tomorrow, right? So know your numbers.
Oh, thank you very much for that as well. I think I learn a lot and people learn a lot. If you have questions, guys, put them in the comment. If not, not yet, but you will maybe rewatch and then have question. I will, of course, share that with Will just in case. So you can always connect with him and learn more about the business and the submit as well, that the link is shared in the chat. And last one before we leave, we talk about manufacturing. So we had the before and after COVID. What did you saw? I think that there was supply chain issues and everything. So you saw the impact of that, and maybe some people focusing on go back maybe to local business to try to to get the product. How do you see the future for that actually at this point? Because that's a lot of changes. But what do you see?
Yes.
How do you see the future?
Yeah, so I'd say another major advantage a lot of our clients have when working with my team is that I've literally vetted hundreds of manufacturers all over the world. And today I have a very short list of the best premium manufacturers that I think provide the best value, the best experience, and the best cost for all my clients. And so to answer your question is like, there were a lot of issues during COVID. I'd say today, a lot of manufacturers have worked through those issues, and so they're back better than ever. To be honest, we're having very little manufacturing issue today, and I would say that depending upon the vertical you're in, depending upon the type of product you're building, we have high probability of getting you connected to the best manufacturer. So again, I've spent 10 years flying all over the world, literally touring manufacturing facilities in China and all over Asia, all over Europe. I was just in Colombia last month touring a manufacturing facility down there in Medellin. That's a new partner for us called Cento Electrics. They're really great at like electronics, and they're also great at like smaller volume, which sometimes is helpful for our clients to just get the product made in the hands of happy clients or consumers. So yeah, I'd say when it comes to manufacturing, like we have a short list of honestly like the best manufacturers that I know about in the world. And we're happy to get you connected to them. I'd say just as I wrap this up, because I do have to jump, I'd say like if you want to learn more about crowdfunding, you can go to launchboom.com. That's our website. You can talk to an expert on my team if you just have questions or want to learn more. It's really easy to book a call with my team. Or if you want to come to Crowdfunded Summit next month, you can go to crowdfundedsummit.com. You can get a free ticket. Or if you want to potentially raise some money and get some support and actually launch your product through crowdfunding, you can also apply for our pitch competition during the Crowdfunded Summit. And you can also do that through the Crowdfunded Summit website. So I'd say check out LaunchBoom, check out Crowdfunded Summit, and you should be able to learn even more there, a lot more.
Yeah, thank you very much for finding the time. I know you're really busy between all the things you do every day. So, guys, I hope if you learn a lot today. If you have any question, of course, I will. You can share the chat. If not, you share later. I will just send them to Will just in case if you want to connect with him, or even to get to know more about the business and everything, and the summit for sure that I will attend as well. So if you want more information, let me know. And thank you very much, Will. And I will let you know. Go enjoy your day.
You too, Pamela. Thanks so much for having me today, and I hope this was helpful.
Totally, at least for me and for a few people, for sure. Thank you very much, guys, and have a nice day.
All right, bye, everyone.
Bye.